All right, and this is the beginning of the recording for the Diffusion review Zoom meeting that happened at 10:05 on April 1st. So, you guys do really well on Diffusion, so I'm not going to harp on it too long. I just want to get through some main ideas. If you have any trouble remembering or you need examples to think of, you can go back and watch the videos and things like that. All right. So if you want a little review on site versus situation, all right. This is on page 12 of your ISN. It's the diffusion tree map. All right, and we're going to be kind of just running through this today. So as you can see, there are two categories of diffusion, and you actually see them right here: expansion and relocation. Okay, those are the two categories: expansion out from one central area. Abigail, I'm going to mute you. You're muted. All right, relocation means that it's not the ideas or material that spreads, it's instead the people. So you have it to where like people from one area spread out and diffuse across a larger area themselves instead of just sending their ideas out to new people. Okay, you guys get it? So, just key thing, what is diffusion? The act of dispersing or diffusing something, ideas, fashions, even people. The spread of social institutions and myths and skills from one society to another. All right. Easy thing to think about with this when it comes to specifically social institutions: democracy. Democracy started in one place, and that was ancient Greece, and then it spread to other places, namely hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years later. It spread from ancient Greece to America, and then America spread that America was instrumental in spreading that social institution across the world, right? If you want to check out this video, it's McDonald's in 37 countries. You'll see some changes to the McDonald's as it spreads out. And really, what idea is spreading? It's an example of stimulus diffusion. And the thing that's spreading is the underlying principle of McDonald's, right? So McDonald's has spread to 37 countries around the world. But at the same time, it's not always the same food. So if you go to a McDonald's in Asia, you're more likely to see dishes with rice and noodles and things like that. But if you're in a McDonald's in America, you're only going to see, chicken nuggets, burgers, chicken sandwiches, milkshakes, things like that. You're not necessarily going to see a lot of rice dishes or a lot of noodle dishes. Okay, so the underlying principle is McDonald's itself, the brand of McDonald's. And as it changes, it spreads out and changes what they're putting on their menu. So it goes to China, and you might see a rice teriyaki, it goes to Japan, you might get a rice teriyaki dish. It goes to China, you might get a fish and noodle dish, right? It goes to somewhere like India, and you're getting those veggie burgers and things like that, and more chicken-based dishes because so many people in India do not eat beef, all right? So we're gonna keep going, all right? Can you think of another example? You guys should have another example on your in your ISN on page 12, right? Devil Wears Prada, okay? Devil Wears Prada, that's that video about the woman explaining how high fashion goes from being like top of the line high fashion, most important people in fashion are making ideas, and then it spreads out to other designers, lesser known designers, and then other designers, lesser known designers who are working directly with things like Walmart, Kmart, and then finally it gets out to the most number of people by getting out to places like Walmart, Kmart, Target, things like that. Right? It's a great video. I really love it. But what was diffusing in this video was fashion, right? And how did it diffuse? It was hierarchical diffusion. Okay. The spread of a feature or trend from one key person or node of authority. So they're talking about high fashion, really, really important designers, and nodes of authority, Paris Fashion Week. And then it spread to other people down the chain of less and less and less importance until eventually it got down to everybody in America wearing a specific type of cerulean, I believe it was. All right. So you're going from a key person or node of authority or power to other persons or places. So great example of this, right? What's another one? That could be like let's say a king who everybody before used to have a long beard, and then he decides to cut all of his beard off except for his mustache, and then other people in the kingdom start to wear mustaches, and it goes down to where eventually 10 years later, all of the peasant men have mustaches instead of having a large beard. Right? That would be hierarchical diffusion. It also happens in like democracies and things like that, right? To where if, for example, if President Trump had been better about social distancing and not shaking hands with people and things like that, maybe other people would have taken it more seriously. People would have stopped shaking hands earlier, and we wouldn't have as much spread of coronavirus as we do now. Right? Things like that. It's going from a place of authority, and then other people see it and copy it, and then other people see those people copying it, and they copy it, and so on and so forth. Okay. And then we've got the history of Facebook. This gets into how Facebook spread, all right, and how it spread very rapidly across a group of people that were clumped really close together. And this is the type of diffusion that we see right now in the world. It's contagious diffusion. Basically, one person started using one thing and it spread to the nearest people by them. And then it spread from those people to the nearest people that were by them, and so on and so forth. And it spread and spread and spread and spread and spread. Again, diffusion. It's like COVID-19, right? It's like coronavirus. It's spreading out and going everywhere because people are staying close by to one another. Okay. A form of expansion diffusion in which nearly all adjacent individuals and places are affected. Okay. So that in our modern world, best represented by coronavirus, kind of crazily so. Okay. Can an argument be made for another type of diffusion made for Facebook? Remember, Facebook started in the Ivy League school on the East Coast and then spread to other Ivy League colleges and other colleges and things like that, which means that it started a node of power and authority, which was an Ivy League school on the East Coast, and then it spread to nearby Ivy League schools, and then it jumped over to other colleges around America, where, remember, when Facebook started out, it could only be for college students. So it was jumping from one node of authority to other nodes of authority, colleges, and then before it eventually jumped to where everyone can hop on board, and Facebook really went downhill. So I would say another argument could be made for it being hierarchical, because it started a place of power and then spread out and down from that. So guys, if you want easiest thing to think or easiest way to remember hierarchical, it's like a flow chart, right? Okay, and then it spreads out from there to other places. All right, that's hierarchical. Okay. Stimulus, you get it to where it goes from the original place, right? And maybe it starts with a T, and then as it spreads to other places, it loses certain aspects or gains certain aspects as it spreads out from the center. Okay. Now, key thing that's staying the same, it's always going to be a circle, but then you've got a circle with one line, then you've got a circle with a line and a triangle, then you've got a circle with nothing. Okay. So that's an example of stimulus. Contagious, it just goes everywhere exactly nearby. Okay. And then it spreads out from there. Okay. And then it keeps spreading, keeps spreading, keeps spreading. Okay. There we go. Got it. So just keep spreading like that. So what do you guys think relocation diffusion means? We've already talked about this, so everybody should be able to yell out, people moving. All right. So relocation diffusion is the actual movement of individuals who have already adopted an idea or innovation who carry it to new, perhaps distant location where they proceed to spread it, often through migration. This is really common right here with types of food. So if you've ever had El Pastor, right, an El Pastor taco, that is a type of taco. I think it's El Pastor. I'm gonna double check that. But that is a type of taco that was actually, it's basically shawarma, right? It is where you stack the meat on a spit that's vertical, and then it turns and cooks. In an El Pastor taco, you cut it off the side, put it in the taco, and then you hand it to someone for them to eat. It's fantastic. But that whole thing came from Lebanese immigrants to Mexico. So people from Lebanon, which is a Middle Eastern country, that had this already, where they were making it with lamb, or they were making it with beef, not pork. Okay, they were taking that and they had it on a shawarma, and they were making it, and they put it in shawarmas like gyros and things like that. It's really, really great. All right, but then you had Lebanese immigrants from that country moving to Mexico, where when it came to Mexico, they didn't have access to as much beef, they didn't have access to as much lamb. So instead, what they did is they made it to where they were making it out of pork for people in Mexico to eat, because people in Mexico were not Muslim. So people in Mexico began to really like this. It became known as the El Pastor taco, and super, super fancy, and or not super, super fancy, super, super delicious, right? Not fancy, but it's fantastic, because the whole reason it happened was because of those actual immigrants who moved from Lebanon all the way to Mexico. Okay, Lebanon all the way to Mexico, and then they spread that idea of using like shawarma cuts and things like that. Okay, often through migration. Another, yeah, if you watch this video, make sure you start at 4:45. Okay, let me move this over here.
To fly a rocket ship, you need to be an optimist.
Oh, to fly a rocket ship, you need to be an optimist. That's kind of crazy.
No astronaut.
So we're gonna go that.
Widest single drop waterfall in the world. Quite a fascinating place with physical diversity, very much like the people of this country.
So yeah, this is Guyana, right? And you're gonna learn more about the people of Guyana.
Guyana is honestly like one of the strangest demographical anomalies in the world, because most of the population has ethnic roots that are not even indigenous to the continent. First of all, the country has about 740,000 people and has a high emigration rate, in which around 500,000 Guyanese citizens live abroad. The largest group, the East Indians, make up about 43%.
There you go, East Indian. So people from Eastern India, Bangladesh, areas like that. That's 43% of their country, right? And they go into why that happened. But think about that. 43% of their country has East Indian roots. That means 43% of their population had relatives who started in East India and then traveled all the way around the world to South America to live. And they still have descendants there. That is a perfect example of relocation diffusion. Okay? You can go watch the whole video if you would like to learn more about Guyana. It's very, very interesting. Okay, and then our exit ticket, you were supposed to write this on the back of the diffusion questions. All right, this is the Kiki challenge. Basically, it's people in India who like to do memes and things like that. I bet they're on TikTok. Anyone who can find this, the village farmers in India on TikTok, shoot it out to me, and then I'll shoot it out to the whole class so all you guys can see what they're doing on TikTok nowadays. But yeah, they do different memes and things like that that are part of usually American global culture, and they're doing it in India, and you'll see how it changes, right? So a great example right here. Okay, remember the Kiki challenge is supposed to be people driving or dancing next to their cars and stuff. Do they have a car to drive or dance next to? Not really. They're doing it next to their office. Okay. There we go. Cool. So guys, diffusion, pretty easy. Y'all should all be pretty, how do I stop sharing? There we go. Y'all should be pretty great at diffusion. Everybody should have a lot of practice. If you need more practice, there's a little kind of quiz up on Canvas. I actually made it to where you can do it more than once, so get a 100 on it. So relocation, right? That's for group A. Okay, if they're in this part of the world, right, they go all the way over to another part of the world. All right, and now A is right here. Okay, but everywhere around it is different people. Okay, but they're just sticking, and they're completely moving their population from one area to another. Okay, great. Let me put that down so you guys can pause this later. You can easily see it. There we go. Cool, cool, cool. Does anyone here? Actually, let me turn off my recording. There we go.